Hello there, and welcome back to World of Warship Legends with Derka, where today we have the third installment in our Versus series. In one corner, we have the Regia Marina's Littorio class battleship Roma. In the other corner, we have the Kriegsmarine's Odin. We will start with the history of the real ships, or the lack thereof, discuss commanders, ship setup, followed by in-game statistics of each ship, and finally end with some division gameplay. Ultimately, we will get to the bottom of which of these is the better Tier 7 brawling battleship. Timestamps will be provided in the description below, and if you're not into history, then hey, skip ahead, look at the in-game comparisons, or skip ahead to the gameplay. But without further ado, let's get into it. Roma, named after the capital city of Italy, was the third Littorio-class battleship built for Italy's Regia Marina, or their Royal Navy. Littorio and Vittorio Veneto were laid down nearly 4 years before Roma, and Roma was finally commissioned in June 1942. The ship's design was a planned counter to the French Dunkirk-class battleships. During her career, Roma was deployed very little as there was a severe fuel shortage in Italy at the time. Instead, along with her sister ships, she was used to bolster the anti-aircraft defenses of various Italian cities. In 1943, the war was going very badly for Italy, and they wanted out. A secret armistice was signed, which included turning over the Italian Navy to the Allies. As a ruse, the Italian fleet, including Roma and her sister ships, was scheduled to attack an Allied amphibious assault force coming towards Italy. In reality, they planned to sail to Malta to surrender to the Allies. The secret armistice was discovered by the Germans, and the Italian fleet quickly set sail. While the fleet was in the Strait of Bonifacio, the German Luftwaffe caught up with them. The German aircraft were armed with the first precision-guided munitions in the world, called the Fritz X radio-controlled bomb. The first attack failed, but the second dealt substantial damage to Roma. The hit on Roma caused water to flood into 2 boiler rooms in the aft engine room, leaving the ship to limp along with 2 propellers. Shortly thereafter, another bomb slammed into the ship and detonated within the forward engine room, causing catastrophic flooding and the explosion of the No. 2 main turret's magazines. The force of the explosion was so great that it threw the turrets itself into the sea. Sinking by the bow and listing to starboard, Roma capsized and broke in two, carrying 1,393 men down with her. The Odin, while having historical origins, was not a ship that was actually laid down or built. Its design originated from the German Naval Conference of 1933. Interestingly, just as Roma and the Littorio class were designed, Odin came about as the Germans discussed the threat posed by France's new battleship Dunkirk, which was entirely superior to the German Deutschland-class cruisers. The Germans needed an answer to the Dunkirk, and this meant having a ship at the very least with armor thick enough to protect against the 330mm shells. A 26,000-ton design was considered. The project would have armor capable of withstanding Dunkirk and could sport 305mm guns of its own. The issue with the project fell with Germany's capability to build a ship that size at the time, only having one slipway large enough, and the Odin would be limited where he could be docked. A more detailed review of the design was ordered. Ultimately, the proposal evolved and led to the Scharnhorst class. In simple terms, the Odin was a preliminary design to Scharnhorst. Looking online, I was never able to find schematics of the Odin, so it's probable Wargaming essentially created the model themselves. So before we go any further, we need to look at the commanders that we have on both of our ships. For the Italians, we are using a rank 11 Paolo di Ravelle. He is currently the only Italian battleship commander available at the time of this recording, October 29th, 2020. For the German side of things, we're using a rank 12 Otto Ciliax. Our inspiration for both commanders are the exact same. A level 16 Andrew Cunningham to clean up that dispersion, and a level 11 Mikhail Kedrov for improved turret traverse speed. All of the perks for both of our commanders are the exact same. In perk slot 1, we're using Brawler, which improves our reload speed, our Torp detectability. However, it reduces our main gun range by 10%. Which, having played either one of these ships, you're probably not going to want to be shooting at max range anyways. Perk slot 2, we have Crisscross for improved turret traverse speed. In perk slot 3, we have Firefighter, which reduces damage control party reload and reduces our fire chance, but it also decreases the damage control party duration. In slot 4, we have Master Mechanic, which decreases repair party reload time and increases the amount of HP recovered. It also gives us 1 additional repair party. Last but not least, Will to Rebuild heals more quickly, and it also gives us an auto repair if our health is below 20% and we are within range of an ally. So next up, we can start looking at the different statistics of each ship. For our health pools, the Odin has 62,700 hit points, and the Roma has 65,400 hit points. The armor for both ships, the values that World of Warship Legends gives us, are that the Odin's armored up to 360 millimeters of armor, and the Roma's armored up to 380 millimeters. And of course, at this time, we still do not have an armor viewer in our version of the console game. Last but not least, torpedo reduction values, the Roma 38%, and the Odin 22%. So we can start off by looking at the Odin's guns. It has a 3x3 configuration of 305mm guns, which are the smallest battleship guns at tier 7. They reach out to 15.2 kilometers, have a very quick reload at 15.8 seconds. Good turret traverse time, 25.6 seconds for a 180-degree turn, which is really important in a close-range battleship. HE shell damage 3600, AP shell damage 9729. So the gun configuration on the Roma is the same 3x3, but the caliber 381 millimeters or 15 inches. The guns reach out to 15.1 kilometers and have a 22.8 second reload. The 180 turn time, 28 seconds, and it's important to note that it would be a little faster here if Paolo di Revel were a higher level. He's a level 11, and our Celiax was a level 12, and that's the perk at level 12 that would be upgraded is Crisscross, which improves the turret traverse speed, so important to note there. The Roma HE shell damage, 5100, and the AP shell damage, 12,000. So next, we can move on and talk about the secondaries of the ship. As we all know, secondaries in World of Warship Legends at the time of this recording is a bit of a joke, but they are working on a rework at this time, so we'll still cover it. The secondary suite on both ships reaches out to 5.3 kilometers. The Odin has 1,228mm guns, 6 150mm guns. The Roma has 12 90mm guns and 12 152mm guns. Max speed on both ships is 30 knots. Turning circle is 20 meters better on the Odin at 790, and the rudder shift is significantly better on Odin at 11.2. The Roma's 15.6. On both of the ships, we are using steering gears mod to help with torpedo avoidance and also to assist with getting the guns on target. And in the case of the Odin, we're using those steering gears to help us flip back and forth a little quicker so that we can use the torpedoes, of which I have left out up until this point. They are in a 2x4 configuration on the back of the ship, set up just like the Grafspee. They are 533 millimeters. They have a 90-second reload, do 13,700 damage. The torpedoes reach to 6 kilometers, and they are 64 knots in the water, which is relatively quick. So last but not least, we'll move on to some gameplay. And this time around, I know I try to get gameplay with a division mate so that we can take both of the ships out at the same time, kind of use them together, maybe compete a little bit, see who can rack up the more damage and have a better game. And I had some good division games, but because of my ineptitude with using OBS, I kind of screwed them up, and the quality was so bad that I wouldn't dare show them. In 2020, in a world of 4K and Ultra HD, it doesn't matter if you get a 300K game and you're Mitsuki with 7 sinks. Nobody wants to watch it in 480 crappy quality. So We won't have a division gameplay, but we have one in the background that should be short and sweet, where we crush the enemy team and they get the mercy rule. So here at the beginning, let's put up some of our charts to compare the two ships. The HP advantage absolutely goes to Roma. The armor, we're not going to really talk about in this game. We couldn't do armor reviewer from the PC or really compare them because the Odin is an entirely different ship on the PC. In fact, on their version, it has about 50,000 HP. Maybe one day when we get the armor viewer on our game, we can discuss it. Torp belt, Roma gets the advantage. The speed is tied, and then the maneuverability, Odin wins in that category. Now, comparing the guns in these ships is really apples to oranges. 381 millimeters versus 305s. It's not really something that we would compare. The Roma obviously has the bigger damage, the bigger ability to, fight battleships. The Odin has the quicker reload speed, and the guns really would be more apt to fight cruisers. And that's kind of comes down with how we play these ships a little differently. Now, the reason I know that part is apples to oranges, but the reason I did choose to, compare these two ships in gameplay was because at the time of this recording, both of them were campaign premium tier 7 battleships, and only having Paolo di Revel, Roma, really at this time is only a brawling battleship. That's all we can do with it. So that's why I wanted to kind of compare these ships and see which one is the winner in this area. So here in the gameplay, we go up close and personal. You really are going to have a hard time shooting at long range with the setup for Roma or Odin. So we get up here pretty close and try to kind of set up a firing lane so that we can shoot anyone crossing over towards the A side of the map. Kind of as a, a prevention from letting people get over here, and if they do want to cross my path, they're going to pay for it. After all, the best offense is a good defense. So having a good position behind this island, I can limit the torpedoes coming to me. I can choose who can shoot at me and when just by backing up. Also, target selection is something that we could talk about here. That cruiser should have been my first target, probably, because I could have done a lot more damage to him, although he is a harder target to hit for these guns. But trying to silence the enemy guns, the cruisers, you're going to have the best chance in killing them. Notice I'm not shooting at this Roma at all here. He's well angled. There's very little chance that I'm going to do good damage to him. So he can sit here and shoot at my armored side all he wants, but I'm gonna, continue to pick these targets over here that are, more of a winning proposition to shoot at for my team. Another thing to talk about with this position here is the option to disengage. You never really want to just sacrifice your ship unless you are, sure that you're going to give your team the chance to win. So by being here behind this island, I have the option to disengage and to get away. And that could, the same play style and brawling for the Odin or the Roma. They both have decent top speed of 30 knots. So it gives you a little wiggle room if you needed to back up, turn your ship around, and escape. So both ships, I think that they have different fighting ranges that they're more comfortable with. The Roma, I would say that it could fight from a little bit farther ranges. Its shell penetration values are higher with the 15-inch guns than with the Odin's 305mm guns. With Roma, you have this great shell velocity. They pack a wallop even at distance. Odin is better up close because, one, it has sonar for defense against torpedoes and destroyers, and also because it has torpedoes of its own. It's a great knife-fighting ship. So at this point in the game, I see my Vlad was over here in B, and I want to move up a little bit to support him. I'm going to angle directly at the Roma in front of me so that there's not much he can do against me. The same with the Lion, especially with the smaller caliber guns that he has. But I want to move up a little bit to kind of check this Odin that is in the middle of B. I don't want the Odin to be able to move up and torp our Vlad, so by moving up here, if the Odin wants to turn this corner, and thank goodness he's shooting at HE. The HE shooting in battleships, I just wouldn't do it. He would have got a much better salvo on me. But anyways, by being here, I'm preventing him from turning left into running up and doing a torp run on our Vladivostok. Because if he does, if he turns up that way, I'm going to put 9 15-inch shells right into the side of his ship. So now that we have his attention, we're kind of protecting our teammate a little bit. We're going to start backing off, remembering that Odin has 6-kilometer torpedoes, and I'm very close to that. So here I'm intentionally, while he's angled at me, I'm aiming for his guns. The Odin has notoriously easy guns to knock out. So whenever you get the opportunity and you're fighting an Odin, shoot for those front turrets. Just aim directly at them, try to knock them out of the fight. Now that he's given me a little better angle, we'll show him what this AP can do. We're still trying to back up. We've been in his torp range for a long time. And at this point, I probably should have went ahead and put it in full steam ahead, and then his torpedoes would have overshot behind me, but I kept reversing, so we are going to catch a couple torpedoes, and that was an error in my part. Luckily, the Roma, having the 38% torpedo reduction, which is pretty decent, you know, this isn't going to be terribly catastrophic for us. So we start moving back up. We're not going to let this guy get away. We're still angling against the Roma up there, so there's not a lot he can do to us. And out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the Vanguard finally pushing around the corner of A. Looking at their points right now, they only have 30 points, so by killing this Vanguard, that will be the mercy rule and end the game for us by taking their points to 0. And just like that, we go ahead and shut the Vanguard down, and that is the end of that one. Overall, really fun ships to play. I'll be excited to see Roma when we get different commanders and see different setups that we can do with her. But yeah, really fun ships. Again, different categories. It's hard to say which one is the absolute best brawler. One's better at short to mid range. One of them is a better knife fighter, and they're both good at what they do in their own right. Well, I hope you guys did enjoy it. That's going to wrap it up for this one. Please drop a like, leave some comments down below. Tell me what you think of this video series, what we could do to change it, or, you know, what you guys would like to see. And subscribe to the channel, because I'll keep putting the content out there. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.